Today I am joined by personal trainer and instructor and social media. I don't think influence is the word. I think just presence is the word. I'm joined by the formidable Ban Hass. I should say to everyone listening, we met on my very first day as a personal trainer. And I know you were a few months into the job yourself. So I feel like we've been on this journey together from day one. And I think we're going to discuss, but I think we've both had our own evolution of how we practice personally and professionally, and just, I think, our mindset and our confidence and, just, I think, growing up in your 20s and figuring out who you are whilst working in the fitness industry. So I thought it'd be great to start with, introduce yourself, and let's start at the beginning and talk about where you started with fitness.
So I made the career change to become a PT in 2014, late 2014. What do you want to know?
I want to know, prior to that, how did you even get into fitness to begin with? Were you a sporty kid?
No, absolutely detested PE.
Same.
Hated PE. I hated anything. I hated team sport. I thought anything where it was like competitive, because I felt shit. I felt like I couldn't do it. I didn't even want to try. It just made me feel bad about myself. I hated, up until 21, I'd never been in a gym before. I thought going to the gym was very basic, very just weird. Just like, why would you do that?
Because it wasn't like a big thing, was
no,
it?
it was, I don't know. Like, my friendship group wasn't like that.
Yeah.
But I just thought, why would you do that? Why would you care so much? Why would you be so, it's just basic, and ego, you got to have like a real, like, ego to like want to like work on your body.
Did you think it was quite like a vanity 100%. Exercise?
I only saw it for vanity reasons. I thought, well, there can't be any other reason why you would go to the gym.
And did you feel like you don't care that much? So
oh yeah, I'm way too cool for that. I'm not like other girls. I'm like, I don't need to go to the gym. I'm just gonna like drink and just be cool and eat whatever I want. I thought that was like a personality. And then I spent a year in LA. And that's when the first time I went to the gym, purely because it was what people did there, and my friends were going there. It was much more culture. And it didn't really have a thing. It wasn't really about aesthetics. They just went to the gym like brushing your teeth. And I went there, and it all started off with like literally 30 minutes on a stationary bike. And when I'd gone to LA, I wasn't really in the best mental place anyway, and I just found that it suddenly helped me and made me feel a lot better. And suddenly it all started from 30 minutes on a stationary bike to really enjoying it, coming back to London, being like, okay, well, I need a gym membership now, and everyone's being like, well, keeping it a bit of a hush, keeping it on the low down, not wanting to like tell people that,
which is like so
weird.
2020, because you would have do you think you would have, if it was now, do you think because it's so, the whole, if you haven't posted it on Instagram and social media, it never happened. Do you feel like you would post it more? I don't know.
It was just so different back then. I felt ashamed. I felt really embarrassed that I've changed, and people would be like, oh, but she's not that, party girl drinker anymore because she wants to go to the gym, but to be honest, I was doing both.
Yeah.
But I really was enjoying it. I just thought like I had to keep it a secret for a bit. A couple of years, it was all about me, fitness. I went, and my first job was in the city doing legal recruitment for 2.5 years. I toyed with the idea of becoming a PT for quite a while, but I never really thought that I could actually do it. And I wasn't really in the right space to do it. I think a lot of people now jump on to become a PT because they think, oh yeah, I'm really passionate about fitness, I'm going to become a PT. But as you probably know, that's not enough. You can't just like going to the gym and become a PT, because you're literally not going to make it. I waited until I was less selfish about my own fitness goals, and I actually wanted to help people.
That's so
to becoming a PT.
Interesting.
100%.
That's so interesting, because
that's why I held back, because it was all about me. when it stopped being about me, I was like, right, now I'm ready. Now I can definitely do this. And that's when I made the decision to quit my job.
And that doesn't happen a lot in the fitness industry in the whole, because I think a lot of it, I think a lot of people get drawn into the fitness world for somewhat selfish reasons, because, you know, like, it worked for me, I can do it. And if I'm in a gym all the time, I can be working on myself all the time as well.
Also, they think, well, you know, they see the glamorous side of the Instagram. They think, oh, I can make money. Like, this PT's making this much an hour.
Yeah.
Like, if I like that much an hour, I could, like, you know, pack out clients and I'll be in the gym all day. I'll be training, and they think it's going to be. They think that's what it is.
Yeah.
They don't see it as actually.
It's so unglamorous.
Like, they don't see that we used to sleep in corridors in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
They don't see that we didn't have a kitchen for a while. Hey, Luke. We didn't have a kitchen for a while. Do you remember when we didn't have a kitchen?
Our manager locked us out. So Bad and I worked in the gym together for, like, how long were you there in the end? Probably like 8 months we worked together.
I was there just under a year, maybe.
Yeah. So I joined 2 or 3 months after you guys started.
And the only reason I left was because it was literally killing me. Like, the commute, I had, like, I built up a business. It was like, actually, I felt like I'd really, really achieved quite a bit. And it was like a thriving business, but inside I was dying.
Yeah, we worked in a basement. You didn't see daylight much.
I lived an hour away. Yeah.
And you're starting work at 6, 7 a.m.
My first client would be at 6 a.m. My last client would be at like 9 p.m. And I was just, I was like, I did not quit my job to be hating myself this much.
So it's not glamorous.
It's definitely not glamorous.
But I do think, you're right. Shifting to the mindset of, okay, I have done what I needed to do for me. I'm ready to pass that on to other people and help other people, I think is so important.
I also wouldn't change anything about that first year. Like, that set us up.
Yes.
Like, now everything feels like dreamy. Now it's like, oh God, yeah, I'm just gonna chill out this morning, or like, actually, I'm not gonna work that evening. Having that choice constantly makes me think, you know what? I hustled.
We hustled.
I've done my time.
I've
done my time on that gym floor talking to people who I don't want to talk to.
Yeah, who probably don't want you to speak to them.
Don't want me to speak to them. I've done my time, you know, cleaning treadmills and doing all that stuff in between, whilst trying to earn money enough to be able to pay your rent.
Yeah.
For the gym.
That's just for the gym, not even for your home.
That's not just for the gym. Yeah, exactly. So I would never take it back, because I think that set us up, and having to have those conversations and having to learn about people, learn about clients, customer service. You just don't get that from being an online trainer or an Instagram PT, do you?
No, it is a whole...
You've got to do your time on the gym floor.
Yeah, you do. And I think just meeting different people, and even now I'm still meeting clients that are giving me a new perspective on things, and I'm learning so much from different people I'm training, because each person has a different need, and you have to work with them and, you know, around their experience and what they need, rather than just saying,
here's
okay,
your program.
I'm going to mold you into this.
Yes.
Because I think that's what a personal trainer should do. And I think we'll get onto it later, but I really think, like, in the framework and the kind of paradigm in which we both work now, it's very much a person-centered approach, rather than...
They tell me what they want.
Yeah, rather than, I think, an ego-centered approach. And I think traditionally...
We can go back to that, of how we've changed and evolved. Because it was very much me projecting my own happiness. I've done this. I want to help you.
Yeah.
At the beginning as well, with me.
Absolutely. Like, well, I've done this. So, you know, I lost a ton of weight. I can do it for you too.
Yeah,
and naively just thinking that's what it was. And, like, I think it's important to say to maybe people who are interested in personal training listening, or are in the early days of their career, I don't blame you for wanting to think like that, because I do think that is kind of nurtured through personal training courses and things like that. Like, that kind of mentality.
I want to be your savior.
Yes, the savior complex. And it took me, like, it took me a while to kind of
I
realize
know.
that.
So only in the last
In
couple of years. Only in the last couple of years have I been thinking, God, well, like, I don't know if you're planning on getting onto this today, but like, I genuinely may have never been the PT who was like, okay, here you're going to be calorie counting, you're going to be macro counting. I genuinely never did that, not even at the beginning.
Same.
But
it didn't feel right.
No, even back then, I'd never did the aggressive, you're going to be dieting, this is your program. What I did do, however, which is problematic in its own ways, was like, oh, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. You know, you can eat whatever you want. You just got to be creative in the kitchen. And that's where I'm like, you know what, you're not me. Yeah. Now I can look at that and be like, you know what, you might not have the time that I wanted to invest in that. You might actually have a bit more of a life.
Yeah. Yeah. You might have other priorities like kids to look after.
Yeah, you might not want to be like pretending that vegetables are pasta or like, chickpeas are brownies or cookies. Like you might want to just have a healthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
So I think so that's where I went wrong. Oh, it's not a lifestyle. It's not a diet, it's a lifestyle.
Yes.
Actually, it's still a diet. So that's where I went wrong, I think, at the start, was trying to make people a bit more like me and trying to do it in a really, 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 really positive way. It might not have been you're going to lose weight. I never assumed. I'm just being quite honest. Even at the start, even right at the beginning of my PT journey, I never assumed someone wanted to lose weight. I was never really judgmental about what they could do. I've always had quite a real diverse client base. But if they did want to lose weight, I would ask them about food. I would ask them, I would tell them, why don't you do this? Why don't you try this? Why don't you get prepared? Why don't you spend your Sundays doing your prep and all that shit that now I'm like, you know what? Maybe they don't want to do that.
Do you know what? It's so interesting because I PT'd in a very similar way. And because I think we both initially, so that kind of first year of working as well, just thinking back to our days on the gym floor, we both probably had a similar approach. But I don't think we really spoke about it that much. I don't remember having conversations with you being like, okay, I'm not weighing my clients and I'm not
I think we were very similar. I think we were very similar, and I think we just that's probably why we bonded. Yeah. Because we thought, you know what, we're not going to do this bullshit bodybuilding, like this kind of like what all the other male PTs were doing and the calorie counting and all that stuff. And we were like, you know what, we're better than this.
Well, also,
we are above this.
I think like subconsciously for me, from a personal perspective, I realized how tricky the relationship with food had become for me from that kind of calorie macro counting, MyFitnessPal space I had been in. And I think I'd kind of come through that and really didn't want to
do that for someone else
on other people. But I was absolutely very much like, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change.
You just got to enjoy your food.
Yeah. And make sure you're doing X, Y, Z and don't eat this, try this as a swap and all that kind of stuff, which I think seems really harmless and
it all came from a really good place. Like, I really want to help you.
Yeah.
I really want you to enjoy your food. You're allowed to do that. And even back then, we were about the balance of, it doesn't matter. Have a bit of this. You don't need to be too. But still, it was the assumption that you are me. You should be a bit more like me.
Yeah. And I think still the assumption was that like weight loss was automatically to be praised. And I don't know, like if a client came in and had said, I got on the scales and I'm so much lighter, and I'd be like, oh, I'm so well done. I'm so proud of you. Because I think that was the default of the environment we were working in, within the kind of from the personal training course itself, but also just the environment of how other personal trainers were operating. And I personally felt a bit of pressure to to conform. And like I remember asking another personal trainer to help me do body fat testing, that I felt like maybe I should be doing that with my clients. I didn't feel confident with it, which is why I didn't like doing it. But I don't know, I think because it all felt really like it just made me feel a bit uncomfortable at the time, and so I just didn't start there. But even so, I think having started at that point, and even that, to say that we weren't totally entrenched in that kind of diet culture mindset with exercise, that we only assumed that it was for one thing and one thing only, there's still been a massive journey of growth and evolution for both of us, even though we didn't seem to be necessarily in such a like bad place to begin with, if that makes sense.
Just to anyone else on the outside, there'll be a ton of PTs out there right now going, oh, you're saying like it's a bad thing. You're saying telling clients to eat healthy and make swaps for vegetables are a bad thing. There'll be a ton of PTs out there, even now, slamming us for like, oh, so you were just better back then and now you're like, whatever, do what the fuck you want. But what they don't understand is that's just the step to an eating disorder. That is where it starts. You start restricting more, you start feeling guilty for eating the pasta instead of the courgette, and then it's a mind fuck.
It really is.
It's a mind fuck. It's not as simple as, oh, just make good swaps, because it becomes about control. And when you give up that control, you start feeling bad about yourself.
And one thing I've really learned we've both been personal trainer for over 5 years now, and one thing I've really learned throughout that process is we are most people's first port of call for their information about health.
Everything. Yeah.
And, you know, probably more than a doctor, more than a dietitian or a nutritionist, because they're not as easy to get access to. And so you're more likely to meet an instructor of a class or meet a personal trainer, and they can really set the tone for how you engage with fitness and food.
It's a massive responsibility, and we can really, really fuck that up.
And you can. And I am certainly like, I have to apologise about certain things I said, not only to clients, but online. Like, I think online I was probably worse. And, you know, I have to take responsibility for the fact that a lot of it was self-projection. And, you know, there may have been, and I've had people tell me now that like, I followed you in the past, it was triggering for me, I had to unfollow you, and I'm really glad that you've got to this point and I really enjoy what you're doing now. And I have to really recognise that the past information I was putting out there online was a lot of what I had going on. And I also think that happens within personal training too. I think there's a lot of personal projection onto clients where maybe we've got our own difficulties with our body image or our relationship with food, our relationship with exercise, and we pass that on to clients with kind of realizing it, whether it may be like I've witnessed and heard, you know, personal trainers berating their own bodies.
God, this is my worst. And I think that's the worst thing. Yeah,
and saying, you know, oh, I don't know, I've got cellulite here, or I've got this and that. And I think it's really sad because, and I know that person, that's an internal struggle that they have, but it's just even, it's like being a parent, isn't it? Like, you just don't realize the impact that those little comments build up over time to have people have a view of bodies, fitness and food in a certain way.
But there's the argument that you just be professional, and you just don't do that, even if you are struggling with that. It's like us teaching a class. Like, for me, the day that I teach a class and someone can tell there's some shit going on in my head, or I'm having a bad day, I've done a pretty bad job.
Because it's a performance.
It's a performance. They're paying you. They're paying quite a lot of money to feel better. They're not coming for my story.
So speaking of,
they're really not
classes,
coming. Yeah.
So you've taught spin classes for 4 years now?
It must be. So if I've been a PT for 5, I've probably taught spin classes for 4. Yeah.
And how have you noticed when you started teaching, once again, were you using language in the class that was maybe, so we speak about in the book about sneaky diet culture language in fitness, and often maybe an instructor's motivating a class by saying, come on, we're going to do one more press up to earn that lunch, or...
Yeah, again, I would say I was never that. it was never that aggressive. It was never, I actually don't think I ever did the whole earn it,
Burn it.
burn it, sweat it out. I don't think I'm like 99% confident I never did that because I've never really liked it. But I was much more of a dickhead, if that makes sense. Like
What
now,
do you mean by
even now, people will say to me like, "Oh, you've got soft." Like I've got soft.
Oh, so is this because you were like a bit of a must keep going, dig in?
Yeah, diva, dickhead. Thought, you know, the more aggressive you are, the better instructor you are. The more shouty you are, the better you are. Now I'm like, do what you want.
So can I ask, in a class, so this is a really interesting conversation then. So in a class, did you feel like
I felt like I'm small, so I need to make up for it. I'm a small little girl.
you're like a dog with like a small dog with a big
I felt like
bark.
I was a small little girl, and I had to, you know, really, really prove that I
Assert
was
your
just as
authority
badass,
yeah.
just as strong, just as loud, just as big, just as, you know, fucking get on with it. I was very much like, just get on with it. Just keep going. Just suck it up.
Yes, this is so interesting. And were you so okay? Because I think, you know, I too am. I think of myself almost like a bit of a, like I'm a bit of a like a nice guy kind of person. But when I was training, I was like, I wanted people to walk out of class. I mean, thinking early days when we worked in the gym together. When we're teaching on the gym floor, I wanted to make it difficult so that people felt like she's tough. She's a tough trainer. She has really difficult workouts and she doesn't mess around and she, you know, kicks ass, and you leave the class feeling like that was a tough, exhausting workout that was like, you know, she's a badass. That's how I wanted people to feel about me. And you're right, over time, and from where, so even now, so many thoughts going on in my brain, witnessing classes in the studio I work in now, and you know, people are like, oh my goodness, like I'm exhausted, I'm like, I can't do any more press ups, and the instructor saying like, come on, do one more, don't give up,
Thing is that I found that so off-putting from the start that I would never do that. If an instructor ever said to me, don't give up, I'm out, done, fuck you, I'm on the floor. Don't care.
Yeah, so I
find it so off-putting. Like, who are you to tell me you can do one more?
But well, I've been that instructor in the sense of like, come on, you know you can do it. One more.
You
keep
know you
going.
can do it. It's so much more than better than don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up. No, I'm out.
Like you're not allowed to. Whereas
Done.
Yeah, I agree. But there's definitely been times when I've gone down the route of motivating people and not letting them trust their own body is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Not
so that's
like
really
you
interesting.
must complete the workout that I have set, and you know, I've got breaks within this workout, and you take the breaks when I give them to you. But you've got to stick to this workout in the way that I planned it and the way that it's going to be.
Do you know what I do, Tally?
Because
now?
that's the way it's effective. Whereas now I say, I don't know about you, but like, this is your workout, your class. Like, I'm going to teach a class. You go with the flow. When you need to sit, you rest, you do what you need to do.
I sometimes don't even give breaks now. Do you know why? I'm just like, you know what? You know, when I'm training, the instructor might give the break. They might not give the break. I'm taking the break when I need it. Like, I'm taking it. And I just think that when you need it, you'll take it. You'll take it. If they want it, make it active. If they don't want it, don't make it active. I will always say right now, if I were you, you'd probably should need the recovery now. At the right intensity, you're probably going to want this. I would encourage you to take this.
But do you also allow for, so obviously Train Happy itself is about intuitive fitness. I'm going to prop it up again. There we go. It's about intuitive fitness and helping people to trust their bodies. And I think sometimes what happens in classes,
They listen to the instructor a bit too much.
they listen, and they don't allow. They think, no, I must be pushing through because the instructor's keeping going, or and they're
5%.
pushing through injuries and pain barriers, and because they feel like they have to keep up. And I mean,
it makes me feel a bit sick.
but there's been times when people do throw up at the end of classes, or
Literally, I'm like,
because they've absolutely like beasted themselves.
Like, I cannot even set if that happens. I'm like, that is not the goal.
No, exactly.
That is so not the goal. The amount of times I have trained really, really hard and I felt really, really like, I felt like shit afterwards, but I have not thrown up. You do not need to throw up. Like, that is so beyond anything. Like, I've never thrown up before.
I don't think I have. I know my boyfriend has, but that's because sometimes he's trained on a hangover, which is his own fault. But I've done classes with him. I'm like, where's he gone? Where's he gone?
The only time I've nearly thrown up is when I could feel the peanut butter coming up. That's like the only time. And that's because I've just eaten too close to working out.
I do think there is a culture within
you're
classes,
a better PT if you can make someone throw up.
Yes, within personal trainers and within teaching classes and boutique studios that, you know, the ultimate goal is absolutely killing someone.
I know.
And what we're trying to get at in Train Happy is that, no, some days you're going to be up.
Whatever works for you that day.
And some days you're going to turn up to your spin class and you're going to be like, right, game on. I'm going to do this and I'm going to push myself. And there is a time and a place for pushing yourself. But it's also recognizing that, do you know what? I give myself permission to listen to my body today. And if I need to sit back at any time, or if I need to...
Today's not a PB day.
Yeah, today's not a PB day. I can go at my, at points at my own pace, and trusting yourself with that. But also, from an instructor's perspective, allowing that to happen and not to feel... And to let that happen. And that was a massive learning curve for me. Even in the last kind of 18 months of being hang on a second, I really need to make it explicitly clear to people. I hadn't made it explicitly clear, even though I didn't mind, but I have to make it explicitly clear that, I always say, this is your workout. Yeah. I'm going to give you gears. I'm going to give you ranges. But you need to you know your body best. So do what feels right for you.
So what I use as well now, I've been using this for about a year, is actually explicitly stating today's goal. It's how you feel today, not last week, not last month, not last year. It's today. So that they know that, today is not the same as just because you got something last week. I teach performance-based classes, which makes it that bit harder. But
because you've got data to contend with.
You don't need to. When I do the performance-based class, which I love, I'm not up on the screen. I just love the workout.
Yeah.
I'm not up on that screen. I will never, ever, I can assure you I'll never be up on that screen. I've once done it because it accidentally happened and I hated it.
So to explain...
Doesn't it motivate me?
So to explain for everyone at home, what you, or wherever they are listening, might not be at home, that your class, and I presume maybe it's a studio we work for, but you also work for another studio.
Both of them work with power, work with watts, work with within resistance ranges, RPMs, and so it's not a calorie burn.
No,
but it's like it's a metric.
And data's projected on the screens.
If you want it, you can opt in or opt out.
Yeah.
For both classes, all classes you can.
So that's interesting. I didn't actually know that because I don't have the screens on in my class.
Yeah.
So it's irrelevant to what I do.
You can opt in, opt out.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, I'm never gonna be on the screen. I'm mad.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, because so what happens is you can see, who's in some classes there's a leaderboard, like who worked the hardest, quote worked the hardest. It's not accurate in the studio we both work for, and who's in certain heart rate zones sometimes, and what power zone each person's in.
Levels, yeah.
So there is, which some people thrive off and really enjoy.
I mean, I'm going to say it again. The times that I am accidentally on that screen, I don't do half as well. I become so flustered and focused.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, just let it go, man. Don't be so basic. That I don't enjoy it. I don't actually work as well.
Really?
I don't work as well because I hate it.
Because I think...
I can't zone out. I can't enjoy my moment. It's the same with the watches and the trackers.
Well, let's talk about
that. I don't enjoy it. It becomes like something I have to do. It becomes something I'm not in the moment. I'm not just going for a run thinking this is just going to be my time. I'm focusing on numbers. I'm focusing on stats. I'm focusing on split times. I'm like, oh, fuck. I need to start speeding up for my next kilometer. That I hate it.
Have you worn a fitness tracker watch?
I've worn it I've done it on like map my run and things like that for speeds. Sometimes occasionally it's nice. At the moment, I don't do any of that stuff. The watches, I've never had really anything that accurate. Like I've had it, it's been on in the background, but it's never been like an obsession. It's never really been a problem for me, but I also wouldn't ever allow it to become something, because I think I could become addicted to it, so I just don't.
Yes.
But also, you know what it's like when I used to, occasionally when I would turn it on for a workout, you spend so long trying to fix it, or it's not zoning in, then they're not accurate either. So what's the point? You're flustered over the workouts and you're like watching your watch.
I think, obviously, so I don't think fitness trackers are inherently evil and bad and wrong. I do think when it comes to when we're looking at especially going through kind of the processes of, you know, building a positive relationship with fitness, I don't think they're going to be that helpful. And I do think they are a barrier into what you said, into zoning in on you rather than zoning in on the data. I think they're a bit of a distraction from understanding your body and what it needs. And I do think that it's got to 2020 and we're just really interested in, you know, a number to validate something. And I think for a lot of us, in the same way that we, you know, it's not a workout unless you shared it online. Sometimes it feels like it's not a workout unless there's a number to quantify what you've just done. And, you know, I stopped wearing it because mine died. And maybe this is like 3 years ago. And it was interesting. At the time, I had Calorie Burn on it.
Yeah.
And I would let myself, I wasn't tracking food as such, but I would be like, oh, I've burned this many calories today, I can eat something more, or I need to maybe eat a bit less. And both of those things are just not trusting my body and not trusting myself. And especially when you're coming at things from an intuitive eating approach, crossing over into the intuitive exercise fitness approach, it's just a massive barrier to trust, I think. And I
really enjoy exercise without it. I enjoy it so much more.
And it's really interesting that
my body.
you like doing the classes that are that performance based, but you don't necessarily need the data to get the most out of that workout.
That's because I just really enjoy the workout. That's because I really enjoy like extended periods in the saddle or standing without the choreography. I just like being on the bike and riding. As opposed to more dance-based movements. It's really about that. I have an idea of what my average power is, but if it's not happening, it's not happening. Either I'll put it down to the bike being wrong, me having not slept, me teaching too many classes that week. I'm not bothered.
So it sounds to me like, without reading... No, without like going through the kind of the Train Happy thing.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've naturally come to a really intuitive place with exercise.
I have. I really have.
And when we first started, personally, do you feel that you were as intuitive, or do you feel like...
Absolutely not. It was horrendous. Quad day on Monday. That's not just leg day. That's quad day.
Yeah. Then there was a separate workout.
1 hour on quads.
I don't know how you did that.
Just quads. Like I would not walk for the rest of the week. Then Tuesday, you know, chest and tries.
Yeah.
Wednesday, back and buys. Thursday, shoulders. Friday, hamstrings.
And glutes.
Hamstrings. I was never actually really into the whole glutes thing, but I would tie it in hamstrings and glutes on a Friday. Don't know what I did Saturday and Sunday. I think maybe a body pump and an RPM class. Double.
Wow.
Because it's the weekend. Why not? Yeah.
It's so crazy how... I was the same.
But Tally, like I genuinely felt like if I didn't do quads on a Monday, I was weak. If I swapped it for something else, like I'm being lazy, it's not discipline. Like you can't just go and do like a little short run, or you can't just go to a class instead because that's weak. Because you know, bro mentality, you know, suck it up.
Yeah.
Get your legs in.
Yeah,
leg day, mate. Leg day.
Is.
Come on, just put more weight on. Squat.
Were you ever worried about switching up from that split routine that you had and worrying about if that would change your body or your aesthetic in any way? Or
I don't even know why I did it. Like it was just ingrained in us that this is what you do.
That's how you train.
And you know, we're girls who lift. Hey, we're girls who lift.
Hey,
we're different.
Let's talk about the feminist angle of this, because you like a light bulb just gone in my mind.
We're girls who lift. We are different from the rest of those cardio bunnies.
we're girls who lift, but
Yeah.
also because we want to fit in with the guys.
Yeah, that's why.
And a lot of it because
it was the male PTs
male
going, come on,
PTs,
lift,
you've got to do
lift."
this.
Yeah.
And wanting to fit in that environment. And it was a way of, to be fair, I trained like that before I became a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Anyway, but even so, I think it was like
It was also an identity for me.
A massive identity.
Yeah,
Massive identity.
weightlifting, I felt like I was so much stronger. I lift.
I was a
cool.
hashtag girls who lift.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I had a t-shirt that said on it that I found yesterday, I want to die. I found it yesterday. I had turned it inside out. It says protein shakes, weights, sex, weights, and protein shakes. That was the t-shirt. I want to die. And I used to wear that in the gym. Sex, weights, and protein shakes.
I think I have.
I'm gonna take a photo and put that up tomorrow.
Right,
Sex, weights, and protein shakes.
I'm going to.
A wife beater.
When
I
this
used to wear
comes
in
out,
the
I'm
gym.
going to put this like in the carousel post of this chat. That's amazing. And look,
But to be honest, at that point, you're definitely not having sex because you just don't care.
you're knackered. You're so tired.
Literally have no sex drive. So
Because I was under eating for a long time.
there's no sex drive there, so I don't know
sex
why I was
drive.
wearing a
Also,
t-shirt saying
I would
sex.
I would stay up really late, meal prepping.
Oh, mate, I had left a guy's house to be like, I've got to go to the gym tomorrow morning. Sorry, like I've got spin class
Yeah.
tomorrow morning. Like
It's funny, but it's
Yeah.
also really sad.
it's so sad.
It's really sad.
So it's just weights and protein shakes, no sex.
Dates, but just not
Dates,
sex.
yeah.
Dates, weights, and protein
Dates,
shakes.
weights, and protein shakes. God.
And I think, even though we're laughing, I think we're laughing because we've been there and I know exactly the mentality. And I just also want to say, like, there's no judgment and there's no, even though we're kind of laughing, we're laughing at ourselves.
So much. Like
And
literally, if you
because
go
of the,
through that
because
phase,
of the,
have fun, you'll be
because of
laughing
the-
about it.
because of the journey and the growth we've both been through.
Yeah.
But it's also, like, it's fun. Like, if that's where you're at, that is where you're at.
Oh yeah,
and enjoy it.
I loved my life. I thought I was so cool.
I love my life.
I loved it.
But it's interesting now because what would your
What do I do
t-shirt
now?
what would your t-shirt say now?
Just fuck everything. Like now it would be like whatever. Like just anything goes. Do what you want. Like my training now, like quad focused. Like what?
I know. Mine would
do
be like
on-
occasionally lifts weights.
Light weights. Not even that heavy. Can't be fucked for that.
And maybe just body weight.
Maybe like don't even lift that. I always
hang on,
say
what
that to
was it?
people.
What was it? Weights, shakes, and
Sex
sex
weights.
weights and
Protein shakes.
Okay.
Sex weights and protein shakes. Now it would be like
Early nights.
I'm still a bit of that rock star mentality. Sleep's still not that great, and that's why I think my fitness has become so much more intuitive as well now, because it's like actually I just can't do this. Like I just don't want to do this. So now I have maybe we can go back to this. How you were saying, should fitness always be rainbows and butterflies and all that nonsense?
We'll get into that. Yeah.
Now I will do about 2 strength sessions a week. Ideally.
And
That's not gospel.
Do you keep them rigid in terms of like I
No.
must do an upper body, I must do a lower body, or do you just do whatever you want when you go?
Ideally, in an ideal scenario, I would do 1 upper body, 1 lower body, in the week. Maybe I don't always do it, but I do it because I've started really enjoying running now. I do it to literally stay injury free. That is it. The bare minimum to stay injury free.
Yeah.
Touch wood.
To support everything else.
Literally to support everything else. It is not about. It is literally don't tear a
about
hamstring.
quads.
Don't tear a hamstring. You're running. Don't tear a hamstring. Protect your knees. Don't feel your knees when you're going for a longer run. Quad focused, absolutely not. Way too much spin for that. Don't even need to touch my quads. Don't know why I was doing quad focused anyway, because I was dancing like up until that point. So like I did 1 squat and my quads were fine. Did
Yeah.
not need an hour on quads. 2 strength sessions a week, a couple of runs, and the distance, the time, the length, what kind of a run it is, will be decided on the day.
Really?
100%.
And are
There
you
might be an
happy-
idea. I might have back in the day, Tally, if it wasn't a 10K, it wasn't a
worth it.
workout.
Yeah.
I would do one 10K, hate it, and then wouldn't touch it again for another 10 days, 2 weeks, or a year. Like, okay, Christmas Day, I'll do a 10K because that's what you do on Christmas Day. Like,
Who
it would
does 10K on Christmas Day?
It was like that for me. If it's not 10K, now I'm like doing 5K, and I'm like happy, like delighted, absolutely. I'm like, workout done.
Yeah.
Like it's enough for me to feel like I've got the endorphins, and that's it.
That's really
That's
interesting.
it.
And that is the motivating factor for you now. Like,
That and time. What else have
Yeah.
I got going on that day?
yeah.
I will not wake up super early to be dedicated and fit it in if I have a lot of stress going on. It makes me feel worse. Does nothing for my health. Does nothing for my happiness. Does nothing for my sleep. Fitting in things, making myself extremely busy and stressed. The runs are, if it's feeling good, feeling casual, sometimes I just forget that I'm running. I've told you about this before. I'll put something on Netflix and I'm just running. It's just
Do
fabulous.
you watch Netflix? Oh, on the
I'll watch
treadmill.
something that I'm on. If I'm on a treadmill,
I was like, I thought you were like running around the
if I'm on a
streets.
if
looking
I'm
at
on
your
a
phone.
treadmill,
That's quite
I will
dangerous.
watch. I can watch something that I've already seen before.
Yeah.
Just background noise. I like
Yeah.
the distraction. I feel like I'm just having. I feel like I'm not even exercising. I feel like I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
Like it's just nice. Outdoors podcasts, like really funny podcasts, like hilarious podcasts. It just really helps me just zone out.
What's your favourite podcast?
Okay, so right now, I'm really embarrassed to say it, but there's this podcast called Girls Gotta Eat.
Oh, I've not heard of that
It's
one.
it's American. It's so not me.
Okay.
But I laugh out loud.
Oh, really?
I laugh out loud if I'm alone. If
I need a new podcast. Is
Girls
it health
Gotta
and
Eat.
fitness related or not at all?
Not at all.
Oh,
it's just
brilliant.
about how trashing men are.
Oh.
It's trashing men. It's like talking about really awful dating stories, really awful sex stories. It's just
Your
it's just
dream
it's-
podcast.
It's awesome. I'm crying laughing. I'm literally laughing as I'm running.
Oh, I love that.
It's great. It's so nice to be away from health and fitness as well.
Yeah, I think it's good to have a break. Obviously, we work in it, so I really enjoy certain like health and fitness podcasts, and I do really get a lot from it. But just sometimes I need a break, and I need to not
So that's
think
that's
about
very
it.
new
And
thing for me.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's
was,
a very new thing for
was
me.
it only before were podcasts only
Oh,
health and fitness related?
I'm really something that I have an issue with is actually just chilling out. I'm not very good at. I don't want to sound like a dick, but I don't really watch that much TV.
You're one of them.
I'm one of those who's like, oh, what am I going to learn from this? What am I going to
Yeah,
get
I wanna
out of
gain
this?
something,
I'm going to
yeah.
gain something from this. So when I started doing the runs to the Netflix and I watched all of Gossip Girl again. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
great. Chuck Bass running. This is wonderful. This is just wonderful.
And it's just a way of chilling out.
It's such a great way of chilling out. And then like this stupid podcast here. Sorry, not stupid. I love it. It's a really nice way of chilling out, and it really
Yeah.
helps me with the intuitive exercise because I'm actually not that absorbed with the PB or my KM time. I'm actually just having a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not focused, like we said, you're kind of eyes are
couldn't give a
lifted from looking
damn.
at the numbers.
I couldn't give a damn.
And how do you know when to stop? So if you're on a treadmill, for example,
Time, Tally.
just
When
like,
I've got when I have to leave to go to a client.
Oh, right, okay.
It's not a case of I've got really better at this as well because you probably can. Because sometimes, a lot of the time, I'm not exhausted when I finish. And it's like, ooh, back in the day, you'd be like, oh, I'm not
I need to be
trashed.
dripping with
I'm not
sweat.
trashed.
Yeah.
I drip with sweat anyway.
I am a
so
sweater, but
I'm naturally a sweater. It doesn't mean that I've worked much harder than anyone else. I
just means your body's.
sweat. I sweat.
I say this in the book that people are like, is your workout better if you're super sweaty
Mate, I
afterwards?
sweat. I arrive at the spin studio to teach,
Yeah,
and I
and
look
I'm
like I'm
sweating.
really sweat.
I've got a client, and he'll do a lunge, and he's dripping.
Yeah.
And I train his wife, and at the end of the session, if I've got a bead of sweat out of her, it's like incredible because they're just two different body types. It's
Yeah.
just two different ways bodies function, and sweat just simply means that your body's it's almost your body's version of air conditioning, right? And some people's are just cranked up a lot more
Yeah.
than others, and
I'm a
that's-
sweater.
That's totally fine. And I think getting hooked on it's got to be sweaty to be quote worth it to count is
If that counts, my 5-minute workouts count too.
well, I think it's coming out of that diet culture world of, sweat is fat crying,
Yeah.
those awful slogan t-shirts. Now they are just
Much worse than
no,
weight, sex, and
than
protein
protein
shakes.
shakes. But I think that's where that kind of attachment to sweat is forming, because we're like, oh, I need sweat because it means I'm burning fat,
yeah,
and I'm gonna lose weight because.
but people still think that.
Yeah,
My mum still thinks that.
I
She's
think
like, oh,
they
great.
do.
Why do you sweat so much, Ban? You've got nothing to sweat off. I'm like, don't have time for you.
Yeah, but but I think like that's where, and I think where we've both got to, of being trained in a fitness environment, in terms of like becoming qualified in a fitness environment, that did so strongly associate exercising with weight loss, and that's the only reason you did it, and the outcome always had to be calorie burn, and the most effective workout was the one that burned the most calories, because that would mean that you would, you know, change your body, and that was the why, and that was the motivation. And to kind of shift, and it is a shift, and it does take time, like we're saying, like this is over 5-year period, if not longer. Personally, for us, like for me, this is like over like a 7-8 year period of shifting to a point where like I can unlearn a lot of those rules I learned.
The zero guilt. That is my favorite thing.
Yeah, getting to a place of like no shame and guilt. And I think that's why I dislike, and I'm so, well, there's many reasons I'm annoyed at diet culture, but one of the things is that it just produces so much shame and guilt, and
just
that shouldn't
be
involved.
Your worth is dependent on whether you've exercised that day or not.
And that's not only how you think other people, that's how you see yourself.
Yeah,
because it's the standard you put on yourself.
Yeah, I wouldn't care if someone else, like my mates at the time, didn't move.
Yeah, no, same.
And I'd be like, oh, you're beautiful,
one.
you're amazing, you'd be uplifting your mates all the time. But then me, I'd be like, oh, what have I achieved today? Nothing. Like I felt like if I've achieved nothing else that day, by going to exercise, I had that thing. That was my identity.
That's interesting. So considering it became a part of an identity for you, do you feel that you've created part of the reason you've able to become more intuitive and trust yourself more and be more flexible and relaxed with your approach to exercise is because you've built more of an identity outside of exercise in who you are?
I think it's all related. I think like strength genuinely comes from being that powerful enough to be like, actually, I don't need this shit. I don't need this anymore. I'll do what I want when I want. It's not going to be you determining, you bro, the patriarchy determining what I need to be doing. I think a lot of it's like that, and me thinking, actually, I've got other things going on.
So do you feel like, so I was going to say, who is Ban outside of fitness?
You know what, Tally? I'd honestly say that I am Ban Has PT, Ban Has is exactly the same person. I'm still super, so passionate about fitness, and it is, I wouldn't even say that it's not all of me. It is. And I can say it is my life. It is my thing. I love it so much. But I also don't want to talk about it all the time. I don't want to share it with everyone all the time. I mean, according to Instagram, the last time I worked out was about 5 years ago. Last time I trained myself was about 5 years ago. But I love it. I love that. If someone asks me, what have you done? I'll tell them exactly what I've done today, what I will be doing tomorrow. But for me, it's like there's a lot of the obsession with gym, diet culture is a lot about the world we live in, who's forcing that on us. And as you said in the book, feminism. Like we're being forced to do these things because we should look a certain way. And if you're going to describe yourself as a feminist and stuff, you're going to be like, actually, fuck this shit. I'll do it on my own time. I'll do it depending on if I want to do it and how I feel.
And I do think, for me personally, like
strongly saying no.
Yeah, that evolution of becoming more intuitive was part of me having a cheesy phrase, but having like a feminist awakening. That's why I can see it as like me kind of going, whoa, hang on a second. Wait, who decided all these rules?
Yes.
Where did this come from? Wait, hang on. Why am I so obsessed with my body looking like this? Why do I need to do this? Like, hang on. What? When did this all happen?
Yeah.
Like, why? And realizing that, like you said, adhering to those rules and playing that game for so long meant that I kind of really sacrificed a lot of myself personally, and I did become really unaware of what was going on in the world and distracted from talking about other things besides like what I ate for breakfast. Like, and that's, in all seriousness, I posted what I ate for breakfast most days on Instagram. And I wasn't able to engage or discuss or even have the knowledge on any real big issues that were going on in the world. Whereas I think, and I do think that's partly growing up in your 20s. We're both, well, I'm approaching 30. You're in your 30s, shall I say?
31.
And and I think part of that kind of growing up and like shifting towards a more, I think towards more autonomy, is being like, hang on a second. Who's
said this?
Who's the puppet master here? Who's
Yeah.
pulling the strings? And figuring that like, no, I want to take a bit of the control back, but in a positive way over my decision making.
That's exactly what it is.
And that's been, it's been challenging at times. Have you found it to be, I don't know, sometimes difficult to be like, whoa, hang on a second, but I thought this way for so long? And
Yeah, I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'd be like, wait, hold on a minute. Am I just being lazy?
Yeah.
Hold on a minute. Am I just making an excuse to be like, is this really what I want? Now it's just so normal now to me. What I eat isn't really a thought anymore. It doesn't take up time in my brain. It's the way I train. It's not a stress. Oh, like, am I going to have time to exercise today? Am I not? It doesn't really, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I've been doing this for too long to know that, don't worry, Ban, you're not going to suddenly never go back to exercise. That was the fear at the start, that if I quit one day, that's it.
And
I don't do that.
And that is the big fear, I think, for people who are like,
this is it
wait,
now.
If
I love this.
If I don't work out for...
I'm going to change.
For changing these reasons, for, you know, a specific body goal, or because I need to get ready for my holiday or whatever it is, I won't do anything. And that's a big thing that's come up when I've been speaking to people through like talking to press about this book. And I do get that. And I do think, and I say within the book, I think for some people, like, if you've so strongly associated exercise with dieting and like beating yourself up and it being this punishing, grueling thing that you do, the pendulum's probably going to swing the other way, and you're probably going to stop for a bit like recalibrate.
Yeah, and I think I genuinely, the reason why I never went down that route and was never, it never got too aggressive with me, is because I know myself very well. The minute I can't have something, I want it more. So so it would only ever last for about a day for me. So it was never like, oh, we're going to go on this strict diet for this, because I know myself.
Yeah. But do you think, and I also think because you genuinely had this passion for fitness, it wasn't rooted in like self-hatred, and it wasn't
because quite honestly, what I can say is that I had actually reached my aesthetic goal before I started exercising.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Through changing the way I ate, like years ago. So it was never about, oh, I'm going to start doing this I'm going to start moving to get where I want to be. I'd already done it. I was just in a fucking bad place in my mind. So the exercise actually genuinely did help the anxiety.
And I think, but yeah, and
of course, along the way, I thought, oh, right, now I can eat a bit more. Great.
And also, there was a point for me where I personally didn't stop exercising, but I did have a kind of moment of being like, what the hell do I actually enjoy doing? What do I like doing? Like,
really?
I followed this split for a while, and I've kept training in this, personally for me, it was weightlifting. I kept training in this way. And
I felt guilty doing cardio.
What do I actually enjoy doing? And do you know what, one thing I've always loved doing is teaching the spin classes.
Yeah.
And having so much, I genuinely love it. there's something about the music and the cycling and
You know, I've always loved it. I loved it
and I
before-
get it.
So I loved spin before I became an instructor. So that was my thing.
Yeah.
Spin classes were my thing. I loved
And
it.
I totally get it. I love it.
To this day, I love it. If I'm teaching less during a week, I'm in that class, like in the back row, never in the front row, back row, corner. I love it. The lights are dark. You're on your own, but you're within a group. It's just, for me, it's like meditation,
Yeah.
as opposed to kill yourself.
And I think
I find it really quite.
that's the sustainable
Yeah.
mindset, isn't it? That's the thing that, like you said, kind of has kept you going, because it was never like, you're a piece of trash to yourself, you need to do this. And I don't blame anyone for thinking that way, because we're all bombarded with these messages that tell us that's how we should feel about exercise. And often that may literally be in the form of your instructor in the class. So of course, like, you're going to associate this with, you know, as we were saying before, like an instructor who's a bit of like a sergeant major coming, like, drop and give me 20, that vibe.
I remember there were instructors back in the day who would say things like, if you want abs like me, or if you want, and it's like what?
Yeah.
What? Like, you cannot say that.
But at the time you're like, well, this is just what it is. And
Can you imagine? If you want to look like me, do this. It's just,
I know, but I think there are probably people that
mad.
still say that.
it's mad.
I know.
Yeah.
But I think there's also people who are impressionable and are like, okay, well, I do want to look like them, and so I'm gonna.
But that's the problem as well. So there are a lot of people who still think that way, and that's why they would go to someone's class. They're like, oh, this is the class I want to go to because this is my inspo.
Yeah.
I want to work with that PT because I want that body.
Yeah.
Which is, in itself, it's actually about educating the rest of the people and being like, actually, don't pick your personal trainer based on their body.
No, because
Don't.
there's
because
a million
genetics. There's genetics.
There's a massive foundation of why anyone looks the way they do.
It's just crazy.
And you just can't
Yeah.
compare yourself
Yeah.
to someone who you don't share DNA with.
Yeah.
That's a problem in itself, and that happens, I think, a lot, which is
So
why.
much.
Yeah, I think why. Well, this is another conversation as well. Like, did you feel pressure to look like you had a certain body type to get clients? I did.
But yeah, possibly.
I absolutely
Possibly. I think I wanted to be slim, but then I wanted not to be too slim. I needed to still have muscle. Oh, I don't have enough muscle. Why don't I have enough muscle? Maybe you need to eat more. There was a pressure. If you want to be slim, but you don't want to be bulky. You don't want to be that perfect. Just the right amount of tone to get the ladies in to lift weights.
I remember a personal trainer we both worked with said to me once, we were visiting another gym and one of the personal trainers had lost weight, and he praised them and said, wow, you're going to get so many more clients
That's
now.
disgusting. Makes me feel sick.
But if you're hearing that praise to someone else, you can't help but internalize that you have to maintain a certain body standard, supposedly, to have a successful business. And for me, over the last 5 years, obviously through this kind of like healing time for me of like getting a better relationship with food, getting a better relationship with exercise, becoming more intuitive about both of those things, my body has changed because that was really important for me to get better.
Yeah, and equally, Tally, I remember someone said something. So we say that people judge an instructor by their appearance. There was a picture of me that was posted about joining a certain studio in London. There was a photo of me. In that photo, I look more, I would say, more like a fitness person. And someone actually said I would never want to go to her class because it's quite off-putting.
Intimidating.
It's ququite intimidating.
Yeah. So you can't win.
No, exactly.
And
exactly.
I think that's the point. Like, I think ultimately the point is, and something I've also had to learn in terms of use of my language is describing someone with, you would describe in the past someone who I felt had an quote athletic body shape to be someone who was kind of lean, muscular, visible muscles. And I've really had to check myself on the use of that word.
Yeah.
Because that implies that people in other body types can't be athletes.
Yeah. I used to say something really problematic as well.
I've had to really check myself. And it's the same way that I think personal trainers can come in all different shapes and sizes
Yeah.
and still be really good at their job. Having abs or not does not determine how good a PT you are.
No.
It just determines.
Even at my leanest, I didn't have that visible abs. They were just never that visible. You'd see my ribs, you'd see everything else. But like at my most, if you're going to say unhealthy, still wasn't visible.
But I
unless
think-
like I was like drinking all night and I woke up and I'd be like, oh yeah, dehydrated body, looking great, man. But it's like what you said. But I used to be quite problematic in that way, in that I would say on Instagram, I don't have the typical fit body.
Yeah.
But
I've had to watch myself saying that as well.
I was saying that. Like, oh, I don't have the typical. I don't
the
look
body
like.
dysmorphia.
I don't look like a typical fitness person. I don't have visible muscles. Like, God, I can't believe I used to say that. How ridiculous. How problematic. How triggering for someone else to read that and be like, man.
Yeah, I've had to really train myself out of that
And that's
mindset
my own problem.
because
Yeah.
even now, I don't necessarily consider myself to have the conventional physique of a Fitspo.
But we can't say that.
But
yeah.
it's like,
But then what is that? What is the convention? Like what are
Yeah.
you judging it against? And it's because we still have that perception in our minds that people think that is fit.
so yeah, and well, I think of Fitspo in the sense of a Fitspo influencer working for, I don't know, an athletic wear company. You know,
So a fitness model.
a fitness model is what
A model.
a fitness model is where I'm going with.
You're not a model. I'm not a model. We're instructors.
Yeah.
We're PTs.
But I felt like the pressure early on in the career to look like a fitness model, because that's what we see used in the marketing and the advertising. That's how people sell their businesses. That's what people use to market themselves. And I think that's a separate thing. But also, why can't fitness models come in all shapes and sizes is still the argument and the conversation that we need to have. And, you know, some of the fittest people I know,
And strongest.
and
Oh,
strongest,
God,
like
yeah.
some people I follow online, I'm just in awe of what
I
they're
could
capable
never do
of.
that,
And
yeah.
I'm like, the sad thing is everyone would assume that I could do that and they couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's the sad assumption, because we've learned what an quote athletic person looks like. We've learned what a quote Fitspo person looks like, when actually it's sad to have to be proven wrong rather than just to accept that, oh wow, they're really cool, they can do this, they can do that. So let's talk about, obviously we talk about intuitive movement, and in the same kind of sentence we often refer to it as joyful movement. And you know, I'm a really big fan of people working out because they enjoy it and it makes them feel good. But I think there's a but here, and I think you're a good person to chat to about this. Do you think every single workout in an intuitive mindset
Yeah.
has to be rainbows and sunshine and smiles and fun all the time?
No. And I think it's kind of like intuitive eating, in that there isn't a way. You're gonna feel underfed at times. You're gonna feel over. Like intuitive eating isn't about like, oh, I can say no and I know when to stop. You're gonna sometimes eat more than you feel comfortable with, and that's okay. So anytime you try and control that, that's no longer intuitive eating. With intuitive movement, what I would argue is that I don't think it can be that black and white, because sometimes when it comes to what people think is motivational willpower, is actually someone just feeling nervous, uncomfortable, a lack of confidence that could bring about those feelings of not wanting to do something. So they might feel anxious about wanting to try something new. But then if they did try something new, they might find out that they love it.
Yeah.
So I would hate for someone to miss out on that because they're not pumped for it.
Yeah.
So that's my first argument about it not always having to be butterflies and rainbows and live, laugh, love. Where is that sign in your house?
We don't have one.
Okay. And then the second one would be what I said before. I don't necessarily always think, oh yeah, I'm so pumped for this strength training session. But I do think to myself, look, you really do love running at the moment. If you want to stay injury free and have those joyful movement, happy moments, do it. So to allow yourself those happy moments, long-term happiness, just get it done with. I'm not crying about it. I'm not dreading it, but I might not be like, oh yeah, I can't wait to go train my glutes today. Yeah.
And I think that's the like nuance of the conversation that is important to discuss, because obviously in the book we're talking about, I think they've got, I never remember if I've got 8 or 9, because there are 10 principles of intuitive eating, and then mirroring those principles and applying them to fitness. At the end, we always leave, same with intuitive eating, you kind of add back in gentle nutrition. We're adding back in kind of gentle structure and training. So for example, knowing you've got a 10k race, for example, you may need to know that you need to add in structure and do certain training and certain things to do that. And of course that's totally okay, but it's allowing with flexibility within that, and not feeling a slave to a plan, and not feeling
or time.
And not feeling guilty about certain things.
I don't think, Tally, you can truly be intuitive if you're training for a marathon or something like that. I think there has to be, unless you're gonna be like, actually on the day, don't care about the time.
Well, I sort of disagree with you.
Okay.
So my answer to the question was, firstly, I kind of broke it down to 3 points. If you are trying to repair your relationship with fitness, and a lot of the intuitive movement stuff is all about helping people kind of recalibrate their relationship with fitness and get it back on their terms and not those external rules and influences of diet culture. So if you're still in that process and it's early days and you're trying to separate fitness from, dieting, then probably training for a marathon is not going to be good for you, because you're not going to be able to trust yourself throughout that process. And I would probably advise not to train for a marathon at that point.
Same.
Secondly, you then have to think, what are the motivations behind the marathon training? Where are they coming from? Is this something I want to do, or is this something I feel I should do? What's the motivation? So in the book I talk about extrinsic and internal motivation, intrinsic motivation. And, is the intrinsic within you saying, I really want to raise money for charity, or I really love long distance running and I want to see?
Yeah, great idea.
Is that what you want to do? Or is it a case of like, I feel like I've got to run a marathon because my body might change as a result, or whatever? Where's the motivation coming from? And then thirdly, once you've been through the process of building up your trust and your intuition and challenging your rules around fitness, you are working out, you've listened, you started asking yourself the questions of like, what's my energy today? Is it a go day? Is it a slow day? What do I need to do today? That's when, as I said before, we start adding in those training principles back in, because as a personal trainer, I still believe in weight training. I still believe in cardio. I still believe in flexibility and mobility, but it's just about putting them back in on your own terms and knowing that you're in control of what you're doing.
So the only reason I'd say it might not be the best thing to be doing is because when you're training for something like a marathon, you have time frames. That's the only thing.
So, and I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think, as with any sport or anything you're training for, like I think you could be an intuitive exerciser and still, play sports and be in a team and run races. I think it's all about the intention.
Yeah.
And is it about self-care, and is it coming from a place of respect and enjoyment, and is it just something?
So I've toyed with the idea a million times
of doing a marathon.
Half marathon. Starting
Right.
with a half marathon a million times, and it's been these reasons exactly that I haven't done it. Because I'm afraid that I will stop enjoying it as much.
Okay.
That is my number one reason.
Interesting.
Every time I come to book it, I've even booked one, I didn't do it because of the fear that what
was
if
gonna
I
take-
sign up and then suddenly it's this pressure that I have to run.
Yeah.
As soon as there's pressure, I don't want to do something.
Yeah. I'm quite similar to you,
Yeah.
actually. I don't really like the idea of doing things competitively, but I think
want
it depends
to,
on
but
your
I
personality.
but I do want to. I'll have my moments where I'm like, oh, but I really do want to do it. But then I think, why do you want to do it? Is it to prove to people that you can do it?
Yeah.
Is
So
that
this is
what
the
it is?
motivation. This is
that what it is?
You got to
or is
assess
it
the
to prove to
motivation.
just to you? Is it what is it? If it is just to you,
Is it to
why do
validate
you-
the running?
Yeah. Do you need that? That's
These
why
are
I've
all the
stopped
questions
it. Yeah.
to
That's
ask.
why I've never done it yet.
Well, these are all the questions that, if that's where the mindset is for anyone listening, like these are the questions you need to ask yourself. Like, so what is the true intention behind this? And then within that, I also said about the marathon training, like you are going to have to follow structure and a plan. And like, there's no two ways about it. You can't run a marathon. You can't wake up one day and go intuitively, I'm going to run 26 miles today.
For a week, I'm just going to swim for a couple of weeks.
No, you have to follow a training plan to be safe. Yeah. And that is so important. And that's when I would suggest, weight training is a really important component of that and things like that. But so maybe when you have more times of structure, is there at least once a week when you can do something purely for you? So whether that's like, okay, so I have maybe 3 sessions I need to do. Can I save one of them?
Yeah.
Just to do my own thing at my own pace, no plan involved. I just want to have fun. Yeah. And whether that's like a dance class or swimming or whatever you want it to be, or your yoga or anything, can you just make that your thing rather than having to follow a plan? But I think these are the questions we need to have about intuitive fitness, because there are going to be so many. And I hope off the back of this episode that people have loads more and we can start having conversations about it, because, I've kind of outlined the principles, but it's really interesting how they apply to each individual, because it is so individual. There's almost not a right and wrong answer.
But it's similar to intuitive eating.
Exactly.
In that you got to get over the idea that every meal is going to make you happy
and perfect,
and every meal is going to taste amazing and delicious. And that's it's something I've had to deal with. I'm like, what? I didn't love that meal.
But with intuitive eating as well, the whole point of like, oh, I've got to eat something I really enjoy all the time. And sometimes it's like, no, I've got to practically eat something, or I'm not very hungry, but I'll be hungry when I'm in the middle of training a client, for example. So I need to know I need to eat a snack.
Get a sandwich down now.
But I think the biggest part of intuitive eating and applying that framework to fitness as well is about removing the guilt and shame out of that equation, about knowing that
perfect.
Yeah, and just knowing that I just think it's almost like about having grace about it. Like you have, like I said, there's no right or wrong. It's just a learning curve. And Evelyn Tribole, who created Intuitive Eating with Elyse Resch, really talks about it like that. Like it's not a like right, wrong, black and white thing.
Framework,
it's really about how does this apply to you, and every opportunity. And every opportunity is a learning curve. And it's the same with fitness as well. Like you might go to a class and think, actually, I really pushed myself a bit harder than maybe I wanted to. Oh, you're not a bad person doing that. That's just a learning curve. Or actually, I held back a bit more and I could have pushed myself a bit more. Then that's still a learning curve. Or you have a
session and you'd be like, actually, I didn't need that session today.
Yeah.
Like, actually, that didn't make me feel better.
Yeah.
That was a workout I regretted. Yeah. Thanks, Women's Health. Actually.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? I actually didn't. I thought mentally, I was up for it mentally, but physically, no.
Yeah.
And I think over the years, you become better at understanding your body, but you're still going to mess up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're still going to
actually, I feel awful.
Yeah. I really wanted to go swimming at the weekend, and I didn't actually end up going because I just couldn't make time for it. I had a few errands I needed to do, and it just wasn't going to fit in with my plan for the day. And I felt really disappointed about it, and almost like disappointed in myself. Like, oh, you should have gone swimming. You haven't swum this week.
You felt disappointed because you wanted to do it.
I really wanted to do it, but I felt disappointed also because I'm really trying to improve my swimming, and I really need to be consistent with it. And I was a bit annoyed at myself for not making it happen. And I just had to say, like, Tally, it's 1 week of not going swimming.
Yeah, get over it.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Like, you're not a bad person for not going.
Yeah. This was me yesterday.
Like, you just have to be really kind to yourself. And I think a massive thing is just being really kind to yourself with how you think about your training and what you're doing. And it's been lovely to start. So on social media, I've been asking people to see their train happy moments. And that moment isn't like, it can be anything to the individual. And it's so interesting. And a lot of it is like, one person was like, after serious surgery a year ago, I finally got out for a run, my first run in a year.
Amazing.
Or it might be like, you know, I felt poorly, so I had a lie-in, or I finally got a PB, and someone said, like, my personal trainer told me I did a really good session, and for the first time I actually believed them. And that was really lovely. And those kind of things are really important, but notice how they're so different for every person, that it's not like and I wanted to share that to kind of inspire people to reflect on what's the little things for them that happen, whether it's like, like that PB, or having to be kind to yourself, or that all in moments of intuition, that all moments of, do you know what I mean?
Sorry, I just thought
Trusting
about my
yourself.
own.
Oh, what's your own? Go on, share. Well,
Yes,
that was going to be how I was going to finish. So,
So yesterday, I genuinely would say that, I don't want to sound cheesy here, but I would genuinely say that pretty much every session for me is a train happy moment at the moment. Sorry. But yesterday I really wanted to go. I wanted to go outside for a longer run, a longer Sunday. I've got time. And that's where the guilt kicks in, where you're like, but I had the time.
That was my swimming thing. I'm really bad with time management. That's another thing.
That's the thing that makes me feel guilty. I'm like, you weren't working, so you could have done it. I wanted a nice long run. I woke up and my stomach just felt a bit weird. So I was like, you know what? Just go to the gym, do it on the tread, do a short run. And I faffed around for so long because I wanted to, basically, I wanted to be near a toilet just in case. And I didn't want to go outside and then like be halfway on a run. So it was just like, like 5K, 12K, like that's such a big difference. Could have been outside. I've done something really boring, but I was like, fuck it, mate. Like it's life. And now you're going to go for brunch.
Yeah.
Like, great.
Do you
Who
know
cares?
what? That's it. Saying it's life. It
cares?
happens.
Who cares?
And learn and move on.
What am I meant to do? Not have a stomachache? Like,
yeah, exactly.
it's not, that's so what? But back in the day, that would have really, really bothered me. Or I would have gone and done it anyway.
Yeah.
I'd be like, forget it, screw it. I'm just going to go and see what happens. Now I'm like, no. I'm not going to shit my pants on the way.
Growth. Progress.
Growth. It's not that important.
Yeah, and I think that's it. There are other things going on, and like priorities.
Yeah, brunch.
The toilets are brunch
Bloody
and
Marys.
the toilet.
Yeah.
Honestly, this has been such a great conversation.
Great
I've had the best time. I think we've covered so much. So much.
Sex drives whilst being in starvation mode. Yeah.
One of the downsides of dieting for sure. So it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And I hope maybe we get to do this again. Where can everyone find you and more of your outrageous opinions?
At Banhas across everything.
Yeah.
On
Van's
social media,
a brilliant
everywhere.
follow. Obviously, I'm going to tag her and all the stuff surrounding this, so you'll be able to find her via my page as well. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. No, it's been great. Bye.